It was a cringeworthy moment, some said. It's ultra competitive, and as EJ pointed out earlier in this show, where you go in that draft and what your rank is on this show doesn't end up making that big of a deal. It's you as a player that matters most. He's got a lot of options. Talk us through this. This is fascinating.
Yeah, it is a fascinating scenario because when you're granted exceptional status, the rule is you play 4 years of junior hockey and then you can move on. The issue that Shane Wright faces is that one of those years was canceled in the Ontario Hockey League, so technically he had played 3 years of junior hockey. Now, all the parties involved, National Hockey League, the CHL, have gotten together and they're still working things out. But the number one thing that I think these groups are keeping in mind is what's better for Shane Wright. To go back to junior, I think he's done all that he can do there, so that the goal is to make him part of the Seattle Kraken organization. And where there is that difference is because of his age at 19 years old, technically he wouldn't be able to play in the American Hockey League, but has he fulfilled the 4 years in junior hockey? Well, yeah, but one of them got canceled. So that's where we stand with him. Ultimately, I think Shane Wright ends up being a guy who plays in the American Hockey League, will probably get some National Hockey League games, but because of that year he missed, let's not forget, that's a huge year of development. So I think an American Hockey League season for Shane Wright, where he can go in and hunker down and just be the guy and play in all kinds of situations, would be most beneficial to him. Now, he had some success for Coachella Valley in the championship, in the Calder Cup. And he played some American League games on a conditioning stint and played well there. Got his National Hockey League games in there, his first goal, as you saw. But I do think that 1 year of missed development is something that he's going to have to make up this year, and most likely in the American League.
Yeah, and, you know, it's interesting to go back to in the Shane Wright story, right? Exceptional status in the Canadian Hockey League. That allows you to play in that league as a 15-year-old, correct? So just for the viewers out there, so he was that good at that age that he was able to play in the top junior league probably in the world, right? In the OHL at that time as a 15-year-old, and then things unfolded with the pandemic and lost that time. I had a long discussion with his coach at Coachella Valley, Dan Bilesma, and, you know, Dan just giving me, kind of filling me in on kind of where he feels Shane is right now. And you know, he likes a lot of things about his game. He thinks that there's a lot to really like there, but it's been a lot. I mean, when you think about last year alone, he was in the junior level, he was in the American League, he was in the NHL for a bit of time. There's all this pressure of he was going to be the #1 pick, then he was 4th overall, but still a high pick. And there's always that pressure amongst the peers and for the kid themselves, like, I should be in the NHL. And it doesn't work that way. And he ended up in Seattle where they had a roster in front of him that was a really good roster, and the team got off to a good start. And he was limited by those rules that have a player who has not fulfilled that obligation in the Canadian Junior League has to go back. So it was a tough year in that regard. I think it'll work out this year. I think at the end of the day, to your point, Sam, it'll work out where he'll go to Seattle. If he makes the Kraken, then it's not an issue. He just goes and plays in the National Hockey League. I think, though, the path is probably some time in the American League. And I don't know if that's a full year or not. But my advice to Shane Wright would be simple. Is like, go there with the idea, if you go to Coachella Valley, go there with the idea, I'm going to get myself an apartment, I'm going to dig in, and I'm planning on being here for the full year and really develop my game and get back to where I need to be and learn what it's going to take to be a really good NHL player, because he has the ability to be that. I just think if all the different players, and there's so many that were impacted by the pandemic, I think he is the poster boy for that. Because the OHL didn't play at all. He didn't opt to go play elsewhere like some guys did. And I think that was that's the decision that a young man and his family have to make at that time. So for me, I wish him all the best. I think he's got the tools to be a really good player. I'll see how things play out. But for me, if I was making a decision on Shane Wright, unless he blew me away in camp and made the Kraken, I would go to Coachella Valley with the idea of, let me just really round out my game. Not even 20 years old. He'll be 20 in January. So it's crazy. We've talked about him like he's about 35 years old. He's not even 20.
We need to be patient with these prospects.